the Radio Forest Podcast.
Hello.
Hey, what's happening?
Hey, how are you?
Doing really good, man. Shock to the System, Part 1. Congratulations on a great EP. Am I making this up, or is this kind of like a new sound, like a new step forward for you? I really think it sounds different in a good way.
No, you're not making it up. It was all very intentional. I think this was always the goal for me. This was always the direction that I wanted to be in. And, after just a long story short, or maybe even longer, after, Dearly Beloved was kind of the getting back into the rock format. And once I realized that the fans were on board with that, I was like, how far can we go here? Like, how hard can we take it? When we did Separate Ways, we brought in a little more metal on that, and we felt like, this song's a very familiar song, so if it works with this, then it should definitely just work. When Artificial did what it did, it was just kind of just the validation that I was hoping for. But regardless, it was the direction we were going in. It just so happened to be that the fans were here for it as well. So
yeah, I feel like it's more aggressive. It has more electronic elements. It's kind of like you listened to the fans and took a step forward in that direction, but yet you didn't compromise. Like, you're not like, well, the fans want this, so let's do that. I know I'm projecting here, but it seems like you picked a lane and the rock fans are kind of what you wanted, because it's kind of the current style of rock right now. And also, thank you for doing an EP. The attention span for a full album, I don't remember the last time I got into a full album. It's probably bands like Deftones and Metallica and Tool. I'm like, I got to listen to the whole thing. But with an EP,
right,
like, I can get comfortable with the songs that you have faster. I'm like, all right, I've got these songs that I can keep going over. Like, oh yeah. But a full length, does that make sense? It's like I almost don't have the attention
Absolutely.
span.
Well, no one does, and I think it does give these songs its day, and it gives people a chance to really to sit with these, and it's a lot easier to digest. I think in a shorter period of time, as opposed to finding out years later that your favorite song's at the end of the record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And which by the way, I was guilty of that too. I would listen to records and I would get hung up on like 3 or 4 songs, and I would listen to them ad nauseum, and then I would finally get around to that back half, once I got tired of the first half, and I was like, oh my God, I've been missing out. And I feel like this is kind of a way to do that and still get a full body of work out. So we've got I've been working on the second half in the studio over the past couple of weeks, finishing up vocals, and man, I'm getting even more excited about the second half than I was about the first. And it's different, but it works together at the same time. I think this gives the fans a chance to really it's almost like getting 2 new albums in a shorter amount of time, except, you have a chance to live with 6 of them, and then you move on to the other half. And so, yeah, I think it was a conscious effort to do that, and I'm glad that people are digging it.
Yeah, I remember No Doubt. It's the first album that pops in my head when you said that. I remember listening to it, and there's some good rockin' tracks, and people are like, you got to listen to this song, Don't Speak. And I'm like, the intro's too slow. I'm not feeling the vibe. I want it upbeat. And then like 6 months later, I'm like, dude, this song rules. But you're right. It was too hard. I was like, there's too many songs, and it's not the right speed, and I'm feeling upbeat right now. So I totally get that. It also feels like to me that you've gotten more DIY, like, and maybe that's just rock fans, maybe pop stars seem more just jumping into the stream of things, but it seems like you're very involved, your image, your videos, your music, the EP. Do you feel like that's been a change, or has that kind of always been the Chris Daughtry way?
No, this is definitely, I am hands-on with every aspect of it now, where before it was like, maybe it was a symptom of being green to the industry and just thinking that, well, the label picks a director and the label does this, and, we just sit back and hope it works out. And I found out later, in my career, the hard way, that if you don't have a clear vision, that someone's going to create one for you. And I got really tired of being disappointed in the direction we were headed, and just kind of being on stage and not believing in some of the stuff that we were putting out, and COVID was kind of just this big wake up call for me, and just kind of put a lot of things in perspective for me. And at the time, I was no longer on a record label, and I'm like, wait a minute, there are no rules here. I get to make the rules. This is what I wanted to do when I first picked up a guitar and wanted to get in front of a microphone. Like, why am I not doing that? So it was this inner dialogue that took place, and the rest is history. So it just feels good that to be 45 and feeling like I'm putting out my best work of my career. It's a good feeling.
Current rock bands like Knock Loose or Sleep Token, no one's like telling them what to do. And if they are, exactly. I assume that they're not listening.
Yeah, and you know what? That was kind of the reason that I signed with Big Machine, because when they approached me, I was like, well, this sounds great, but if you're here to give me your opinion or put your stamp on what we're doing, then I'm not interested. But if you're here to support I fully support what my vision is, then this sounds like a good partnership. And so they were like, no, we love what you're doing. We love the direction you're headed. And so it just felt like a win-win.
You went pretty hard with the tattoo, right? Talk about the blacked out tattoo on the arms. And my first question is that something that you have to discuss with your wife, right? Because that's a big change, just a tattoo in general, which you've already had, but then this puts you into a different category.
It's funny. I'd never thought of blackout before I was shooting the video for The Dam, and I had this war paint kind of design that I had come up with for the eye makeup and the chest, kind of the stripes across the chest or whatever. And when we got on set and we started shooting, once we got the wardrobe involved, the director, Jensen, he was like, well, maybe we should, carry the war paint over into the arms and cover up the tattoo so it's not distracting and it's more of like a character. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. So we did that. And when it came time to shoot the performance piece where I didn't have the jacket on, I was like, well, we need to take the black all the way down to the hands. Like we need to come up with a design here. And as I'm in the makeup trailer, I'm looking at it thinking to myself, damn, this would be really cool. And I was never really happy with the tattoos I had. I was always like having tattoo envy and thinking, man, I wish I could start over and have like a concept and something that's unified and that goes together and it's all one piece. And I never thought of blackout until that day. And I'm looking at it going, oh my God, this might be the answer. And then I kind of kept it to myself. I walk out of the trailer and my assistant that has worked for me for like 13, 15 years, he's one of these like punk guys. Like he doesn't give compliments. You know the guy. First thing he said was like, dude, that look cool as a tattoo.
Oh, you're sold. Yeah.
And then unbeknownst to that, my trainer said the same thing. And then my manager said the same thing, all like separate from each other. And I was like, well, that's 3 confirmations like in like 10 minutes here.
Yeah.
And so, yes, in the airport, the video is done and I can't stop thinking about it now. So it's like, it's just taking up my brain space. So I'm looking up artists and trying to find blackout artists. And I pretty much already had the sessions booked by the time I got home. And then I called my wife into the office. I was like, babe, we need to talk. And she was like, what did you do? And I'm like, oh, no, it's about what I'm about to do. and she was all for it, man. She could care less one way or the other. She's like, if that's what you really feel like you want to do, then, I fully support that. So, yeah, it was definitely a conversation, and it was excruciating. I do not recommend it. If you've ever had tattoos, that's one thing. Getting blackout is an entirely different monster.
Check out the video. It goes like from his chest up over his shoulders down to his hands. It's your entire arms. That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it went hard, and we did it in 7 days. So we 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off, and then a final day. And it was just, my body was like, what the hell are you doing to me?
I love your Gibson Explorer and your red Gibson Flying V that I wanted to talk about, but this just popped into my mind. It's probably a no, but did you hear anything from Aerosmith now that Steven Tyler's out? Did Joe Perry say, hey, let's talk again about you stepping in?
No, I think he lost my number after I told him no the first time.
That's hilarious. Okay, so then real quick then, Gibson Explorers, I see you've got a couple of them on stage. What do you like about them and
Yeah.
how's the sound? I'm obsessed with them.
I am obsessed with them as well. Someone gave me one. I think Gibson gave me one years ago, and I was like, how have I not known about how great these are? I've always loved how they looked, but I was always a Les Paul guy or a hollow body guy, and it kind of just worked great with the new direction, and I just love the way they sound, and I'll never go back. They're incredible. They feel good. They're lighter for whatever reason. They're easier for me to fret than the hollow bodies and the Les Pauls. They're thicker. Those have a little thicker necks. These just play a lot easier for me. And I'm a rudimentary player at best.
Well, it's Chris Daughtry, Shock to the System Part 1. You said you've been putting parts together for Part 2. Any sort of time frame? I know that's not always up to you, but if you're a lot hands-on. So do you have any sort of a future calendar date that something might come out?
I have something in mind. I would like to see the first single, hopefully by the summer. That would be awesome. And hopefully the whole, second half, Part 2 should be out hopefully by the end of the year. That's at least my plan. I don't know what the label has in mind, but I would love to see that happen.
And on tour with Creed and also Disturbed, 2 big shows coming up this year. Chris Daughtry, hey man, thanks for talking to me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.